Welcome, my friends, to the darkest corners. Today's tales are all about encounters on trips. I also would like to thank all my new members who've joined and all my members who I have had so far. You have given me hope to continue to do this channel as I do this as a side project to my full-time job, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for supporting me in this new adventure that I'm doing. Thank you, and enjoy the stories for today.
The Chupacabra of Puerto Rico, a personal encounter. I had been planning my trip to Puerto Rico for months. My family always spoke about the island with love, the music, the food, the beaches. But what drew me in was something different. I had grown up hearing about the Chupacabra, the blood-sucking creature of Puerto Rican legend. My abuela used to whisper stories about farmers waking up to find their goats and chickens drained dry, their corpses left with strange puncture wounds. Most people dismissed it as superstition, just a rural myth meant to scare kids at night. But part of me wanted to see if there was any truth to it. I didn't expect anything, just a fun vacation and maybe a spooky story or two from the locals. When I landed in San Juan, everything felt alive. The air was warm and heavy, the streets filled with music and laughter. But as I rented a car and drove inland, heading toward a small town in the central mountains, the island seemed to change. The lush greenery grew thicker, the roads narrower, and by the time I reached the tiny house I had rented through a friend, I felt like I was completely cut off from the world. That night, I sat outside on the porch, listening to the chorus of coqui frogs echo through the forest. It was peaceful, until the noises stopped. Suddenly the jungle went quiet, like someone had pressed mute. Even the frogs, which sang without pause, had fallen silent. That's when I heard it. A low, guttural growl, distant but clear, carried on the wind. The locals had warned me about strange happenings. My host, a wiry old man named Don Mateo, had chuckled when I mentioned the Chupacabra. "Be careful what you look for," he said, his voice rough with age. "Sometimes it looks back." I laughed it off at the time, but now, sitting alone in the silence of the Puerto Rican night, his words haunted me. I tried to shake it off and went to bed, but around 2 in the morning, a sharp, metallic sound pulled me awake. It sounded like something scraping against the wire fence outside. Heart pounding, I grabbed a flashlight and crept to the window. That's when I saw it. A dark figure hunched over one of the neighbor's goats, its body twitching unnaturally, like it didn't belong in this world. Its skin was grayish, almost hairless, stretched tight over a spindly frame. Its back was lined with jagged spines that glistened in the moonlight, and its eyes, its eyes, glowed an eerie red. The goat made no sound. It just collapsed, limp, as the creature raised its head. I froze, my flashlight shaking in my hand. For a moment, I thought it hadn't noticed me. Then, slowly, its head turned toward my window. Those red eyes locked on me. I stumbled back, my heart racing so fast I thought I'd pass out. The creature let out a shrill, piercing screech that split the night, echoing through the valley. I could hear footsteps pounding toward my porch, claws scraping against the wooden boards. I didn't even think. I slammed the shutters closed and pressed myself against the wall, clutching the flashlight like it could save me. For what felt like hours, I heard it circling the house. The sound of claws dragging along the siding, heavy breaths against the windows, that low growl reverberating through the night. Then, just as suddenly as it began, everything went silent again. I didn't sleep. I sat there, paralyzed, waiting for dawn. When the sun finally rose, I crept outside. The air smelled of copper and rot. On the neighbor's land, the goat lay dead, its body drained, 2 clean puncture wounds in its neck. The earth around it was soaked dark, yet not a single drop of blood remained inside. I packed my things and left that same day. Before I left, Don Mateo caught me at the gate. He looked at my face and didn't even need to ask. He just nodded, as if he already knew. "You saw it," he said quietly. "Now you know why we stay inside at night." I never went back to that house. But sometimes, late at night, when everything is too quiet, I swear I can hear that screech in my head again. And I wonder if the Chupacabra remembers me, the way I'll never forget it. The Dover Demon, my encounter in Massachusetts. I've always loved reading about strange creatures, the kind that only show up in old folklore or in late-night radio shows. Bigfoot, Mothman, the Jersey Devil. I knew all the names. But the one that unsettled me the most wasn't as famous. It was something that supposedly appeared only once, in 1977, in the small town of Dover, Massachusetts. Witnesses described a pale, childlike creature with glowing orange eyes, a bulbous head, and long, spindly limbs. They called it the Dover Demon. Some dismissed it as a prank, others as a misidentified animal. But the way those original witnesses described it, terrified, shaken to their core, always stuck with me. So when I had the chance to visit Massachusetts, I decided I'd take a late-night drive down Farm Street, the very road where the first sighting occurred. I thought it would just be a spooky detour, but it turned into something I'll never forget. It was April, a cool spring night. A mist hung low across the road as I drove, my headlights cutting through the fog. The neighborhood grew sparse until I found myself in a stretch of forest, the trees crowding close on either side. I rolled down my window, listening to the night. An eerie stillness lingered in the air, broken only by the crunch of my tires on gravel. About halfway down the road, I pulled over and cut the engine. The silence was heavy, almost unnatural. I left the headlights on and stepped out, my breath visible in the chilly air. For a few moments, nothing happened. I almost laughed at myself for being paranoid. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I caught movement. Something was crawling along the stone wall that lined the edge of the road. At first, I thought it was a raccoon. But the longer I looked, the more I realized this thing wasn't right. Its limbs were too long, bending at odd angles. Its skin was pale, almost glowing in the beam of my headlights. And then I saw its head, large and round, much too big for its body. The creature froze, clinging to the wall like an insect. Slowly it turned its head toward me. That's when I saw its eyes. Two bright orange orbs, reflecting the light like burning coals. Every instinct in me screamed to run. My chest tightened, my legs trembling, but I couldn't move. I was caught in its stare. Then, without warning, it dropped from the wall and scuttled across the road. It didn't move like any animal I'd ever seen. It was too smooth, too fast, its limbs jerking yet somehow fluid, like a puppet on strings. It darted into the trees, vanishing into the dark. I snapped out of my trance and bolted back into my car, slamming the door shut. My hands shook as I jammed the keys into the ignition. But before I could drive away, something tapped against the passenger window. I turned, and my heart stopped. The Dover Demon was standing there, its face pressed against the glass, those glowing orange eyes inches from mine. Its long, skeletal fingers tapped lightly, almost curiously, as if it was studying me. I fumbled for the gear shift, slamming the car into reverse. My tires screeched as I tore down Farm Street, the mist swallowing the road behind me. I didn't stop until I was back in the center of town, where the streetlights and buildings made me feel human again. I sat there in my car, shaking, replaying what I had just seen. I wanted to tell myself it was a dream, a trick of the fog. But deep down, I knew the truth. I had seen the same creature those teenagers had described back in 1977. The Dover Demon is real. And it's still out there, watching from the shadows of the Massachusetts woods.